May God be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Now, every year, the parents of Jesus went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. And when Jesus was 12 years old, they went up for the festival as usual. But when the festival was over and they began to return, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem. But his parents were unaware of this. And assuming that he was amongst the large group of travelers, they went a full day's journey before they started to look for him among their relatives and their friends. But when they did not find him, they had to return to Jerusalem. And after 3 whole days, they found him in the temple, sitting with the teachers there, listening to them and asking them questions. After all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and at his own answers. But when his parents saw him there, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, "Child, why have you treated us like this? Look, your father and I have been searching for you with great anxiety." And the boy Jesus said to them, "Why were you searching for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house?" But Mary and Joseph did not understand what Jesus had said to them. So then Jesus went down with them back to Nazareth, and he was obedient to them. But Mary quietly treasured all these things in her heart. And Jesus increased in years and in wisdom and in human and divine favor. The good news of salvation. We celebrate each year in our church the Feast of the Holy Family on the first Sunday after Christmas. And celebrating or honoring Jesus, Mary, and Joseph as a family unit may be a little redundant in such close proximity to Christmas itself, certainly already being a very special day, heavily laden with emphasis on the importance of family. The problem with this feast, though, lies not as much in its closeness to Christmas as in what we so often interpret the meaning of the feast to be. There has been this tendency in Christian religion to idealize the household of Jesus of Nazareth and to somehow treat his whole family and their relationships with one another into some sort of perfect model, a sort of a perfect model for us to look up to and to aspire towards by imitation of their being beyond reproach. The truth is, of course, that historically speaking, we know virtually nothing of Jesus's relationship with his parents, nor of their relationship with him or with each other. Today's gospel story from Luke is not found in any other gospel and is considered to be an appropriation and an adaptation of an independent legend of an ancient familiar literary form that, has been referred to as the story of the precocious child. This type of tale was usually told in retrospect about famous historical figures to somehow indicate that their eventual greatness could even be seen in their early formative years, kind of like George Washington fessing up to Daddy Washington about how the family cherry tree had come down, or like Abe Lincoln, learning arithmetic by writing numbers in chalk on the back of a shovel, or like our own James Osborne winning first prize for whipping up the absolute best lutefiska recipe ever tasted at the annual Sons of Norway celebration back in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, when he was only 9 years old. Now that's precocious for you, right? Anyway, is James still talking to me up there? The author of Luke made brilliant use of this precocious child image to illustrate a whole host of symbolic of the themes and symbolic of the purpose and the message of Jesus. Most notably, that he was, one, an observant Jew who would nonetheless call all religious belief into question. Two, that he himself could be lost, the mention of the 3 days foreshadowing his being dead in the tomb. And that three, he had a unique and extraordinarily intimate relationship with the creator of the universe. And yet, the feast our church calls us to celebrate today, a feast which incidentally has only been around really since 1921, this feast focuses upon Jesus's earthly family. So how do we reconcile these two seemingly separate ideas? Well, if we were to believe in the full humanity of Jesus Christ, we would have to assent to the possibility that Jesus's family had its own share of problems, and maybe some of them even serious ones. We also perhaps need to remind ourselves that Jesus's immediate family unit structure was highly unusual. A mother, a father, and only one child. This was not the norm in primitive Jewish society. Historians tell us that families were typically large, quite large even. And Joseph's status as a so-called foster father further compromises the normalcy that we have ascribed to the family as we've seen them through the eyes of generations of popular piety. Jesus's family is holy, but not because it consists of two parents living together with at least one child. Jesus's family is holy because it consists of people. It is holy because it exists. Holiness is not something which can exist apart from God and human beings. We've both got to be there for holiness to be. And holiness isn't instant either, nor is it something to be achieved. Holiness just always is. And we are invited to grow towards it, to grow into it, and to grow with it. Each of us is born into a family of one kind or another. It doesn't have to be, have to have two parents. The parents don't have to be biological. They don't have to be Jewish. And we know they did not even have to be of the opposite sex. What's important is that we are born into relationship. That's the way we as human beings exist we exist in relationship, as we are all made in the image and likeness of a God who is relationship. We are born in the image and likeness of a God who is a community of persons, Father, Son, and Spirit, we call them for want of better terms. Another very strange family constellation, but a family, a community whose life is sustained and fostered and nurtured by the absolutely incredible mystical power of love. Now, none of us are that lucky. None of us really know the experience of that kind of consistent, unconditionally pure love in our human relationships. They're all tainted in one way or another, maybe even dysfunctional. But hopefully, we've had some glimpses of it, at the very least. And we do know of this love from God. And it does have a way of spilling over onto us every now and again. We call that grace. And grace calls us to respond with love toward God and toward God through others. That's the call of holiness. We cannot be holy alone. We can only be holy together. This Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus the Christ, was not a Superman. He was a weakling. He was dependent upon other people. And it doesn't seem that he cared how he was related to them, but rather that he was in relationship with them and with us. And right now, as we in our Dignity New York community, as we are all called to be family for each other. Amen.